Welcome to the Navigating Cancer Together podcast. My name is Talea Dindy. I'm an 11-year cancer thriver, cancer doula, and owner of On the Other Side. I use my experience to help others get on the other side of cancer. Gaps between the guidance, emotional support, and education that are needed and what one receives can be huge. This podcast fills those gaps by sharing stories, resources, and information about all things related to cancer and wellness. I interview guests from all walks of life who are living with cancer, caregivers, and those who are thriving on the other side. Also, I talk with organizations, healthcare professionals, and experts in the health and wellness spaces who offer complementary and integrative care. Join me. We are in this together. Disclaimer: the purpose of this podcast is to educate and to inform. The podcast is provided on the understanding that it does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services. It is not a substitute for professional care by a doctor or other qualified medical professionals and is not intended for the use in the diagnosis or treatment of individual conditions. Guests who speak in a podcast express their own opinions, experience, and conclusions. Neither Talea Dindy, Navigating Cancer Together, On the Other Side LLC, nor any of its affiliates endorses, supports, or opposes any treatment option or other matter discussed in a podcast. The mention of any product, service, organization, activity, or therapy on a podcast should not be construed as an endorsement. Welcome to another episode of Navigating Cancer Together. I am your host, Talea Dindy. Today, our very special guest is Al Morentin. Al is the founder and CEO at MyFitLife, a premier holistic health and wellness company, which was founded in 2001. After going blind due to glaucoma and getting his vision back with cannabis oil, Al founded a CBD manufacturing company so that he never has to go blind again. MyFitLife is a CBD and sport nutrition company producing high-grade alternative health supplements for those that are looking to achieve vibrant health naturally without the use of pharmaceuticals or harmful medications. Al has dedicated his life to spreading the good word about alternative and holistic therapies, and he will continue to do so with the many therapeutic benefits of cannabis and CBD. Al, thank you so much for joining us today and welcome.
Hey, Talia, thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure, Al. Your story is just amazing. Why don't we start by you sharing your health journey with us and how that led to the work that you're doing today?
I've been involved with just fitness and health my whole life. My mom got me into it at a young age, and also at a young age, in sixth grade, I was told I had the markers and I would go blind one day because there is no cure. And then fast forward to 30 years old, I was told my glaucoma was active. I'm going to go blind one day because there is no cure. After that, I started searching a little bit, and by that time, I was in holistic health. I've been that since 21 years old and since 1987, and I've been helping people overcome conditions. It started just because I was trying to figure out for myself, and I was never able to really figure out anything for myself, but I was able to help all kinds of people with other stuff. And it took me 17 years till I was 47 years old to figure out that a certain specific extraction process with cannabis oils would help my vision. Then I was able to figure out how to help people with other hardcore conditions.
Wonderful. I'm so glad that you were able to find something that helped you get your vision back. Also, I want to applaud you for taking things into your own hands and finding a cure, so to speak, for your glaucoma.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not really a cure. It helps me to see, but if I stop taking my oils, I go blind in less than a week.
Oh, wow. Thank you for clarifying that, Al. So you have to take them, I'm assuming, at a specific time every day?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, we can get into that like a little later on, like why I need it and why everybody else needs it too.
Sure. My first question, and I'm sure some people are wondering if they're not aware, if CDB gets you high.
The answer to that is no. The short answer, it does not get you high. In the cannabis plant, the THC is the component, the cannabinoid that has the psychoactive effects, and you have to activate it with heat in order to do that. Go from what's called a THCA with an acid molecule on there, then they heat it to a certain temperature for a certain amount of time, and that will knock off that acid and turn it into a delta 9 THC, and that's the psychoactive component. The CBD has no psychoactive effects, only like holistic benefits.
Okay, so there are no side effects to CBD other than the holistic benefits?
No, there are no side effects in the entire time that I've been working with it. I have not seen any side effects or contraindications to medications. I like to say it doesn't have side effects, it has side benefits.
Great. How does CBD help cancer and people with cancer?
Okay, so there's a variety of ways that CBD and the specific extraction that I have, which is it's a full extract cannabis oil that's high in CBD, and it helps in a variety of ways, like I mentioned. And like I mentioned earlier too, we do not claim to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any illness or disease with any of our products or programs over here. Everything that I'm relaying to you is anecdotal observations that I've had over the years of success. A lot of people come to me that have cancer just to get out of the discomfort that they have. They're in various degrees of pain, from just hurting hardcore to neuropathies to all kinds of different things, and then plus the depression that goes along with. So there's depression, anxiety, all these things that go along with having a hardcore condition, especially cancer, and it helps with that as well. So it helps to alleviate the discomfort and to alleviate the anxiety and depression. It's really awesome with that. But it also, for some people that take this specific extraction process, it's a full extract cannabis oil, and I call it the FICO or RSO. Those are the monikers for it, RSO, Rick Simpson oil. And I developed a high CBD version of that. But it helps to feed your endocannabinoid system that you have inside of you and balance out your body. Cancer is basically, at the end of the day, it's a nutritional deficiency. There's a bunch of stuff that happens along the way with these mutations and different things like that. But the mutations are allowed because of nutritional deficiency, and then miscommunication happens. Right? There's an upregulation and downregulation of communication from your central nervous system to your peripheral nervous system, and that will get like a miscommunication. There's like if there were highways going in opposite directions, there'd be a traffic jam going one way, and that causes the malfunction. So it like hardwires those connections again and allows those pathways to flow freely. And when you feed your system with those cannabinoids, and there's some other vitamins and stuff like that are oftentimes necessary as well, because people are often deficient in those. But it helps the communication to just be correct, and then your body can repair itself that way. So the malfunction just doesn't happen anymore.
Thank you so much for explaining that, Al. You mentioned that CBD helps neuropathy, which is a common side effect of chemotherapy. In what ways does it help or reduce neuropathy?
That has to do with that communication and the upregulation and downregulation of the signals, right? So there's the brain, the central nervous system, which is your spine, and the peripheral nervous system, where the spine goes out to the trunk and the organs and then out to your limbs. And the neuropathies usually happen in your hands and in your feet, in the most distal portions, the farthest away from your heart kind of thing, or your spine. That's where it happens first, then it degrades inwards towards your body. So somewhere along the line, that the communication that goes from your central nervous system down to your peripheral nervous system and then back up, the one that goes back up gets like into a traffic jam. It gets some kind of complication because there's not the proper nutrients to have the cycles to function properly. And trying to put it in simple terms, right, that everybody could understand, that misregulation causes the neuropathy. Oftentimes there could be all different kinds of pain involved, like like the stabbing pain or numbness and tingling or a burning sensation. But that's just all like a miscommunication of what's supposed to actually be happening. And then you feed it with the cannabinoids because you have an endocannabinoid system that has to be fed. You feed your body with the cannabinoids and it starts to hardwire those connections in from your central nervous system, from your brain to your central nervous system out to your peripheral, and then those sensations will go away. Sometimes it happens like day one. Sometimes it takes a long time, but sometimes it happens day one. It's really awesome. But yeah, that's basically what it is.
Okay, thank you, Al. To further that question, how are these CBD oils used? Do you just rub them on, or how do you recommend using them? Is there a particular regimen that you would recommend for people, or how does that work?
I've developed protocols for a variety of conditions. And then one of the things with my company that's cool is we give free consultations to help people develop personalized protocols, because there's a generalized protocol and then there's customizing it to the person. So they start off, we give them the generalized protocol, and then we work with them down the line for free to dial in the protocol. It's specific to their situation, because they might be in different stages of the cancer, and then their biology, they might process it differently than others. Some people need a little bit, some people need a lot. You never know until they actually are on it. So the way that you take it for success is that the primary way is orally through either tincture or through capsules. The capsules are real popular. There's not a lot of companies that do capsules, especially the capsules that we have. We have these really healthy specialized capsules. We are the capsule kings, that's what I like to say. But it's very familiar to people, and it's an exact measured dose, which is important. You don't just want to wing it. Like a lot of people, they'll take these cannabis oils that come out of syringes, and you don't really know how much you're taking and all this kind of stuff. If it's a measured dose, then you could measure if you're having success or not, and then ramp up or down from there. But if you don't have a point of reference, then you can't do that. So the tinctures, you could do a measured dose as well. A full dropper is a certain amount, and then each drop is worth a certain amount. So that's why the consultations are valuable too, so you could dial that in.
I love that you actually walk with people through this, especially in the beginning, because, like you said, sometimes people, we just don't know if we're taking the right dose, if we're taking too much or too little. We don't know what's working and if we should change. So I really love that you are there to support people. That's so important.
Yeah.
Al, please share some success stories that you've had with clients that you've helped in the past.
Right on. One thing I want to say too, I think I mentioned this to you before when we first met, is that I do work with people that only want to do it holistically, naturally, and then I'll work with people that they want to do it, the chemotherapy and the radiation or whatever it is. They want to work with their doctor and with me, and we have success both ways. Okay, it's really awesome. There's one woman way back in 2016 when we first started working with the CBD and selling it to the public. And she went to one of my seminars. I have a seminar, The Truth About Cannabis and the Truth About CBD and stuff like that, just to alleviate people and help them to get on the path towards vibrant health. And she came to the presentation with her friend, and she came up to me afterwards and said, "Hey, I've been following you for a while. I've watched every video. I have 100 glaucoma hope videos online with my journey and a bunch of different other educational videos. I've watched every single video you have. I've been listening to your podcast interviews. I've been doing all this stuff, and I know you could help me. I know you could help me." And she was just bright and vibrant with her smile, but I didn't know this at the time, but she was given 2 months to live. She was end stage. She had the scarf on her head, and she was so frail, but she had this smile. Even though she had gone through all that, she was such a special person. I could just feel it. I was like, I don't know what I could do for you, but I will do my best for you. And I worked with her, gave her the protocol, and she was very medically based. And they stopped doing chemo. They stopped doing everything for her and just sent her home to take care of her affairs. They stopped all treatment, and they just said, we can't do anything for you. After 2 weeks, she called me and said, "I feel really good."
Two
And,
weeks?
yeah. And she goes, "I'm not better, but I'm not healed, but I feel better. I feel like something's going on." And then she went to her doctor after a month, and she had been on the stuff for a month, and he said, "Hey, seems like you're better than you were when you left. And he was expecting her to die in another month.
Yes.
And then another month goes by and he sees her again and goes, hey, wait a minute, you're getting better. And then on the third month, this is what one of the things that bothers me about the American Medical Association, but they said you're getting so healthy that we could put you back on the chemo.
Oh,
And that's happened so many times. So they put her back on the chemo and all this stuff, and she had pancreatic cancer, which is hardcore, and the tumor was inoperable, all this kind of stuff. So they said it's looking like the tumor was getting smaller and all this stuff, like there's all those benefits, and her, like, all her vitals were better, everything. And long story short, a year later, she was able to have the surgery and they removed the tumor because, like, she still wanted to do all that stuff.
yes.
And so I was like, okay, I supported her through that. She had the surgery. Like, she texted me from her hospital bed, from the recovery, from the ICU,
Oh
you know,
my
like,
goodness.
and said, hey, I just got out of surgery. No, your stuff has helped me and blah, 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 blah. I want you to send some and have it on my porch when I get back home.
Oh,
And like, she just became vibrant. She wasn't one of those survivors that just like barely hanging on. 4 years later, her friend that came with her, she had her uncle get a service from me because he developed cancer and he needed to go through stuff. She's the one that told me that Patty only had 2 months to live. And she goes, it's 4 years now. And I've not only have my friend, but we've been able to go out and have fun and enjoy life. I've been able to enjoy my life with my
wow.
friend for 4 years. And so there's several cases like that. And there's other more simple ones, you know,
Mhm.
that came earlier and didn't wait so long and stuff like that. I even have a caregiver that works with me that she
Oh,
had 6 different bouts of cancer, leukemia, fibromyalgia, and 6 different bouts of cancer. And she was on her 6th bout of cancer when she met me. She worked
wow.
for Apple Computers, and she's really short, and she worked on the mainframes, and she got
Mhm.
cancer from that.
Oh, wow.
And they paid for all her medical bills and everything. She got all this kind of stuff. But she was on 40 different, she says 40 different medications, but I
Yes.
think it was 40 different pills, like 40 something different pills. And she has the drawer in her office, and she pulls it out, and it's filled with bottles. She goes, this is what I was
Wow.
taking. And then when she met me, I put her on a protocol, and she got off all of it, every single
Oh,
medication.
wow.
She got on some herbs. She was obviously on the full extract cannabis oil, the high CBD version that's legal to sell all across the United States. And that was in 2016 as well. And I just talked to her yesterday. Like, she's opening up a clinic in Long Beach, California, and we just sent her a bunch of stuff to carry and things like that. But I brought her up because she has that story, which is
Mhm.
amazing. She was able
Yes.
to overcome that last bout, and she's still years late, like, on not on medication, no cancer, blah blah blah. And she helps people. She also is good with the recommendations and the amounts and stuff like that.
Mhm.
She is a certified cannabis caregiver, but she also goes with people. She'll work both ways as well, and work with people that have the medical stuff. And when people go in for surgery or some kind of procedure, she actually
Mhm.
goes in with them, and she'll even spend the night with them if they're going to have a surgery, to
Oh,
make
wow.
sure that that the hospital doesn't administer something that the person doesn't want. Because a lot of times the people, they'll accept the chemo, but they don't
Yes.
want the pain meds because they don't want to get addicted to something, and the CBD helps their pain. So we have actually gotten on City of Hope, Kaiser, and Scripps in San Diego. We've actually gotten our CBD on the charts of the patient for the nurse to administer during their stay.
Wow.
It is really awesome.
That's amazing. Great work. Al, when you were talking and sharing the stories, the first thing that came to my mind was quality of life. You gave people their quality of life. You helped them get their quality of life back. When we're healthy, we don't really think about that too much, but when you lose that, it becomes so important. So great work on helping people get their quality of life back.
Yeah, it's so important. I like to say that you get to participate in life again. Get up off the sidelines and participate in life.
So true. Al, you mentioned that you work with patients who also want to do chemotherapy and things like that. How do you work with their doctor or make sure that what they're doing with you is communicated to their doctor?
So we always have them to let their doctor know that they're working with me. And some doctors, they'll want to communicate with me, and I've done that for years. Since early 2000s, I've worked with doctors as a certified clinical exercise specialist and helped them when they've come out of different kinds of surgeries and heart surgeries and stuff like that, that to help them get healthy and in shape, but not make something go in the reverse, not injure
Mm-hmm.
them, because it's really easy to do that. Communication is key, but some doctors they don't really want to communicate whatever. They just go, they'll let us know and be aware, and they just, oh, whatever you're doing, keep on doing it, kind of thing. But there are doctors that are curious, and they will refer to me afterwards when they see the success. There's a whole underground society of doctors. It's called, I can't think of the name right now, but there's a cancer society of doctors, and it's like a natural cancer society basically, and they've been meeting for 50 years in Los Angeles, like once a year at this, like a convention. And those guys are completely interested in this kind of stuff. So it's really neat. And more doctors are discovering the benefits of CBD, even if it's just to get out of the discomfort. Because if we can get them to do that, to accept it for that, then they might be able to see the other benefits that could be had.
That's right. I really love how you consult with those doctors who are curious and who want to know, because it's
Yeah.
so important that communication is shared, what's happening on both sides of the fence. So if something is not going well, adjustments can be made.
Yeah, because doctors are not taught about the endocannabinoid system in school. Even today, like this year, I've had doctors tell me, because I tell them, you have an endocannabinoid system that has to be fed. And I have this little spiel
Hmm.
that I have, and
Yes.
and then they'll stop me and go, it's an endocannabinoid system.
Yeah.
And then I have to explain that, and they're like, oh, we have that inside of it? Wait a minute, I didn't learn that. And then it opens up their minds to possibility.
Yes. Now, since we got there again, please tell the audience what that is.
The endocannabinoid system, you have different systems inside of your body that regulate a variety of things, the cardiovascular system, etc. So the endocannabinoid system, it creates what's called homeostasis in your body. It's basically balance. So that upregulation and downregulation that I was talking about,
Mhm.
it helps that to be balanced out and that flow to be complete and not have a traffic jam one way or the other. So you have endocannabinoid receptors all over your body, in every organ, like in the eyes. So that's why it helps me on your third dermal layer under your skin. And that's why it helps at point of contact when you put topicals. But everywhere inside where your bone marrow is, in your teeth, they're everywhere. So that's why it helps so many different things. And the balance thing, it has to do with blood pressure, all kinds of different stuff that could be helped along the way. So there's so many things that it supposedly helps to overcome, right? But those things to me are just symptoms of an endocannabinoid or a cannabinoid deficiency. Once you feed the endocannabinoid system with cannabinoids, those discomforts go away,
Okay.
and if the neuropathies go away, the different ailments that it helps with, and even the anxiety and depression, that's an imbalance, and
Okay.
things get balanced out. That homeostasis cannot be achieved if you don't feed your endocannabinoid system.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you so much for explaining that. Al, for example, for someone with cancer, how would they choose the best CBD for them? Is that something that you do on the consultation as well? You help them choose the right one or the
Okay,
best one?
this is super important. So there's a variety of different kinds of CBD out there, pure crystalline, full spectrum, and all these different things. And there's a variety of extraction processes, different solvents that are used. There's, like, for general things like the anxiety and pain and sleep, those are the top three things it helps with. Those are a little bit more simple kind of things that people suffer with it greatly, but
Okay.
those are a little bit more simple. And there's different extraction processes that can help with something like cancer. There's a specific extraction process with a specific solvent, and it's like an art. You have to do it the right way so you don't destroy the components inside of the oil as you're extracting it. Because there's
Okay.
the cannabinoids, there's terpenes, there's flavonoids, and there's other phytonutrients and chlorophyll in there. And all of that has to work synergistically together in order to get the beneficial result. It's not just the cannabinoids. So that's why I say there's a specific extraction process and a specific solvent. We use a food grade ethanol, and we're one of the only companies that actually does this. And we are the only company that I know of that has this high CBD version for sale to the public and at mass. And we don't bastardize it along the way.
Okay.
It's the first extraction, and it has a dual polarity of what it extracts,
Okay.
meaning like dual polarity, meaning like you've heard of fat soluble and water soluble vitamins. That's
Yes.
basically what it is. There's non-polar and polar constituents, and that's fat soluble and water soluble. Okay, so it pulls out both of those. So it pulls out like the whole plethora of nutrients from the plant. Every other solvent that you extract with is only one polarity. So either fat soluble or water soluble. So you need that dual polarity to be extracted. And there's only, like I said, only one solvent that has that. So that's why I say I can't go anywhere without my oil. Like if I go on vacation without my oil, I have to go back home because there's no dispensary, there's no CBD store, there's no online e-commerce store that I know of that has what I need. That's why I started the company.
I like how it's so specific. And to me, that says that you've obviously put a lot of thought and care into your products. And that's so important, especially for someone that has cancer. Their immune system is already compromised. They have all these other things going on. And I really like how you develop your products and how you really talk about them. I can just hear the passion in your voice about how important it is to you to make sure that people get those quality products.
Yes, definitely. Did you want me to discuss a couple of vitamins and minerals that are helpful as well?
Yes, please
Um,
do.
Even with the neuropathies and things like that, there are vitamins that are often deficient in,
Yes.
along with the cannabinoids. And it seems very simple, but with cancer, what some doctors are finding that, like the ones that are interested in holistic, finding that it's not these genetic mutations that cause cancer, that it's actually a malfunction in the mitochondria and the way that the energy source is. And you can't process the glucose anymore, and it goes to where it's a non-oxygen kind of thing, where it's getting the energy source and it's a fermentation process. And that sort of destroys, that's a malfunction in the mitochondria, and then it starts to destroy it to where it becomes a cancerous cell, then it just multiplies and whatever. So you need to, if you could fix that and get the energy cycles working properly again, you could theoretically fix the cancer. So there's vitamin B1, and it has to do with these Krebs cycles, the citric acid cycle that happens inside your body, that energy cycles, how you convert
Okay.
fat and carbohydrates into glucose to be used for energy. So the vitamin B1 and, whatchamacallit, there's vitamin B12. Basically, those two are the big ones. There's also K2, D3. Those are good ones I was forgetting. But the D3, they say, is the important, but you need to have the K2 with it in order to process it fully. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
I
yes.
never heard that. I knew D3 was important, but I never heard about the K2 being
Yeah.
needed. Wow, okay.
Yeah, and the D3 will actually allow the microbiome to change to what it's supposed to be, and it'll allow your microbiome to actually produce B vitamins as well. So you don't have
Okay.
to take as much, because sometimes you have to mega dose at first. Even with the cannabinoids, I call it macro dosing, and you take
Okay.
like a full frontal assault to just to wake up the systems again because they've been put to sleep. So just taking the regular amount that you need isn't enough to wake it up. You have to take an overload of it to actually almost force it to wake up and start working again. And you do that macrodosing. There's actually what we call a healing crisis or a paradoxical effect that could happen when you do that, where you actually feel a little bit worse for a couple of days, then you get better. It's almost like a detox. We call it a healing crisis. But when you step through the other side, you're like, whoa, wait a minute, and it makes you want to take more and more of it. Does that make sense?
It really does. It does. And I've heard of that before, but I've never heard it called a healing crisis. And so thank you so much for going into more detail about that, because it's important that people understand what this process looks like and they understand what's going on behind the scenes. Because a lot of times we just hear about these products, but we don't know exactly how they work. Thank you so much for going into more detail, Al. That's helpful.
You're welcome.
We've talked about CBD, we've talked about vitamins and supplements, and I want to transition now to diet and exercise, Al, because that's in your realm also. How do those two affect cancer?
All right. So there's two things. There's preventing cancer and then once you have cancer, right? There's people like that have like predispositions for cancer, and if you're trying to prevent, then the ketogenic diet kind of a thing where you're eating more proteins and fats and the types of carbohydrates that works well for people with a thing called intermittent fasting. You're basically
Yes.
just eating your meals and not eating snacks, right? That grazing is wrong, like eating snacks and eating little bits along the way, because when you leave your stomach, give it a chance to get empty, and most of the energy in your body is used for digestion. So if you give your stomach a chance to be empty, then all that energy can go to the rest of your body to heal it.
Oh,
You know,
okay. Yes.
so that's a big deal. And I have a 21-day reset, which is a cleansing and detoxification program. And then I have a lifestyle program called AWOL, a way of life, that helps people to understand and actually develop this lifestyle, because it's hard if you don't have a community. So you could develop this lifestyle and understand how to implement it, and how to what foods to make, and when to eat, and all this different
Yes.
kinds of stuff that are seemingly simple. When you have cancer, it's a little bit of a different story, because the things that feed that fermentation process for the cancer is different, because you don't want to feed that fermentation process and allow everything to multiply. And what they feed off of is mainly glucose. So you have to eat foods that are either low in glutamine, because it's an amino acid, so you're not going to be able to stop taking it. And it does have benefit, but you definitely don't want to supplement with it. Like when you're trying to prevent it from happening, you would
Yes.
supplement with it and have fun. But when you have cancer, you would not want to supplement with glutamine, and you want to not eat glucose. So you would be like on a hardcore like keto diet, like where you're just eating mostly proteins and fats. You're going to be doing like fasting and stuff like that. You would be eating normally like 2 meals a day, and that's it. Then go into these what we call OMAD, 1 meal a day, and then do literal fasting where you're just doing liquid. And that's an important part for the cancer, because it allows your body to actually go into a catabolic state and actually to get the cancer, which is important.
Very
So
important.
yeah, so eating the foods that are that don't have glucose, fructose, like, and definitely no packaged foods and stuff like that, processed foods, and staying away from glutamine, because that'll prevent feeding that fermentation process and allow other benefit to happen.
Thank you so much for explaining that. Now, I have an additional question, because what about fruits that have sugar, like raw fruits that have sugar in them? Are those okay to eat? Because I also heard that those raw fruits were very important part of your diet when you have cancer.
So they're important when you're preventing, but this is what I've found:
Okay.
when you have it and you take that stuff away, because the fructose. And especially with today's fruit, it's been overly hybridized. Even if it's not genetically modified, it's been overly hybridized to be sweeter. And to be sweeter, it has more sugar. So it has like way more sugar than it used to back in like years ago, even 50 years ago. It's a big difference. There's other ways to get those nutrients. Things like there's a spirulina and chlorella. They have the way more nutrients than any fruit. Like that, they're the most nutritious foods on the planet. They're called supplements. They're actually a complete food, and you can actually live off of spirulina or chlorella or both, and water, and just
Oh,
that.
wow.
And they're so nutritious. They have everything, all the amino acids. They have fat soluble and water soluble vitamins, prebiotics, probiotics, just everything. That's what we have people take in place of the fruits and stuff like that, and it's
Okay.
actually more nutritious. And it's very simple to take if you have trouble swallowing or something like that too.
Oh, now see, that's very important, especially for people that may get radiation in the neck area or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Finally, Al, is there anything else that you want to tell us about My Fit Life?
Just that we're here for you. We really do offer the free consultations. Like if you go to our website, there's a link you can click, a banner you can click, and just schedule one. And if you don't have to buy our product first in order to get it, you can schedule what we call a discovery call to let me know, or the other caregiver that we have, that one I spoke of earlier. Either one of us will speak with you and let you know how we could help. And then if you want to move forward, and we help you develop the protocol, send you PDFs of it so you have it as a reference point. We are here for you, and we are a community-based company. We're not like a monetary-based company. We are community first.
Thank you so much, Al. Where can people find you?
The website, myfitlife.net, and youtube.com/myfitlife.
Great. Before we end today, I like to ask my guests two questions. The first one is, what is something that you've learned in life that you would like to share with the listeners?
Fail forward. Don't be worried about failure. If you think something's going to fail that you're trying, but you're trying to improve yourself, just go forward with and hit it hard. And if it's going to fail, then let it fail quickly and move on to something that's better. But you never know until you actually try it. So it's okay to fail. Just keep on moving and learn from the experience.
Great advice, Al. What is next for you?
One really cool thing that's happening right now is I'm working with Indian tribal nations across the United States. I'm working with a woman, she's reservation born, and we're creating a CBD for the reservations. And our plan is to get it in all the Indian health services, and also sell it to the public as well. She was reservation born, and she made it out. She was the first American Indian supermodel, and she became successful, and now she's an entrepreneur, and she helps with human trafficking and drug opioid addiction on the reservations and stuff like that, because it's a big deal. So she works with nonprofits and all these centers, and so we're going to help with that, and we're working with a fund to get monetary aid to be able to give the CBD out to community free. And it's called Resilient, like the res, or Resilient with a Z, and it's going to be launching fairly soon. So that's super exciting for me, because we get to help people that have a great need. And it really does help with people that have opioid addiction as well.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. I wish you the best of luck with that. And once it gets going out, when you have more information to share, please share that with me, and I'll share that with the audience as well. That's amazing.
Awesome. Thank you.
Al, thank you so much for joining us today. You have shared a wealth of information with us. I appreciate you. Again, thanks for being my guest.
Right on. Thank you.
Before we end today, I'd like to give a shout out to the listeners. Thank you so much for joining us. If you found this episode helpful, please share and subscribe. That is it for this Wednesday. Until next time, let's keep navigating cancer together. Take care. Thanks for listening to this episode of Navigating Cancer Together. I hope you enjoyed it. Please be sure to subscribe, and if you enjoyed the show, please share or tell your friends and family about it. For notes from the show and previous episodes, visit ontheotherside.life and check out the podcast section. I would love it if you joined us for the next episode. Talk to you soon.